So less than a year after the backlash that Netflix got for their Dahmer show, the Lifetime producers decided to make a movie reenactment about a tragic death of a 22-year-old woman less than a year after the event. I'm not a true crime channel. I'm not even a super avid consumer of true crime content. I do watch it every once in a while. It can be informative, I guess. The reason why I knew so much about Gabby Petito Story was because when Brian Laundrie, the perpetrator, Gabby Petito's boyfriend, went into hiding, there was a lot of speculation that he was hiding in Mexico. I don't know why, but I guess people didn't know where he was. And I guess a lot of criminals go to Mexico to hide from the law. And a lot of people were speculating about it and writing about it in, WhatsApp, Facebook, whatever groups, expat groups in Mexico. And I live in Mexico. And that's when I first heard about this case. And I guess I was intrigued. It's like, well, it seemed like everybody knew except for me. So I was just interested about what was going on, and then I read about it and watched a couple of videos, and yeah, it's an absolute tragedy. And literally less than a year after that happened, without collaborating with the family members of the victim, without collaborating with her friends, or with even Brian's family, none of these people were involved in the making of the movie. And Thora Birch, the director who also played Gabby's mom in the film, it's, by the way, that girl from Hocus Pocus. And she made, after that, I have nothing against Hocus Pocus. It's, it's like childhood nostalgia for me. It's not a great movie, but it is nostalgic. And after that, she went to make or act, and it's just terrible movies. And now she's sitting there addressing the controversy of this project, saying, well, we just wanted to raise awareness.
My intention going into it was just, if there's one individual that maybe sees a little bit of their own life or the life of a loved one, and then they make a change because of that, then this will be a success.
You just gotta believe us, that we have integrity. You just gotta trust it. Trust the fact that we have integrity, and we had all of the best intentions. And yeah, maybe it's a little too early, but we just wanted to raise awareness. Now, the problem with these real life, what are they called, real life reenactment movies, is that you are shooting yourself in the foot when you try to make it. There's no good way to go about it. It's impossible. If you're trying to honor the victim and tell a compelling story, you have to involve a victim's family and friends, because, well, they are the most trustworthy source of information. But then you have a documentary, or you just get, inspired by a story, and you just make a film without Gabby and Brian in it, just a film that is inspired by these events. I don't know how family would have reacted to that, but I would assume there wouldn't be that much backlash, because, movie makers have been doing that forever. Almost every prominent horror film is inspired by some crazy serial killer or by some crazy shit story. So that's a normal practice. If you deviate enough from the real story, and you only take like bits and pieces, no one's really gonna get mad, because most people wouldn't even connect the dots. But making a real life reenactment does not honor the victim, does not honor the victim's family, and it's just a bad movie. It makes for bad, boring movies, because you know what? Life doesn't always have this narrative sense. Life just kind of happens. Random stuff happens sometimes. Bunch of coincidences were just sometimes it's just... It's not a well-crafted story that was written by a bunch of professional and seasoned writers who understand how the story unfolds, who understand all the fluctuations. It doesn't work like that. So if you make a story, if you make a movie, not just based on true events, but it's like just reenactment of true events, it's boring. And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. I just mean that you are shooting yourself in the foot by even trying to make that. Like, you're not gonna succeed because it's absolutely impossible under these circumstances. And to be honest, why are you even trying? Why would you do that, Thora Birch? What is wrong with you? Why do you do that to us? Ugh. Now, I'm not gonna go into the plot of the movie too detailed because, like, you can just read about the case and you'll know the plot of the movie. The only thing they added a lot of speculation, which is always just great. We all love speculation, especially when you see conversations between Gabby and Brian. Both of these people are dead. They didn't have a diary or anything. Brian wrote like a death note, a suicide note, but he didn't like write down every piece of dialogue they've ever had in their lives. Obviously, it's more like a confession note. He just confessed to have murdered Gabby. Also, without going into detail, he didn't say how he did that. We kind of knew that he did that even without the note, to be fair. But that just confirmed even more. So yeah, there's like a bunch of dialogues, a bunch of conversations between Gabby and Brian that, they are complete speculation, because how would we know that they took place? How would we know what they talked about? Like, the movie begins with Gabby and Brian meeting each other after they graduated high school a few years back. They're 22. Which age do you graduate high school in the US? 19 or something? So 3 years after graduation, they met up at some party, and they started talking. Then they went out again. All of these conversations, complete just speculation. It's not like dangerous speculation because it's just like normal dialogue. They're just flirting. But it is kind of weird that you're doing that. Like, if you are gonna speculate, well, then just change their names, change the circumstances, change the entire thing. Just take like the most important parts of the story, just keep them, and make a fictional film based on these true events. Like, why are you trying to? I don't know. Anyways, so they meet up, they go on a date, and then they start dating. They also never even try to make Brian likable, which, he's a murderer. I understand that he's not likable, but, are we supposed to assume that Gabby is a stupid or something? Like, why does she like him? Like, you gotta show at least some of his redeeming qualities. I've been in a toxic relationship once, not too long, thank God, but this movie made me think about it. Actually triggered a lot of emotions in me that I didn't realize were there, but that's besides the point. The thing about toxic and like abusive relationships, it's not always bad. Then no one would be in them if they were always bad. It's a cycle. It's ups and downs, and she talks about it. She talks about it a lot. She says like 99% of our relationships are awesome, but then this 1% when Brian just loses his shit and just goes off rails, and I don't like that about him. And that's the truth. That's usually how it works. But why don't you show us this 1%? Almost in every scene, he is either self-deprecating, like at the beginning, when they went on a date, he was like, oh my God, I'm not worthy of you. Gabby, you're just so incredible, and you're so smart, and you're so pretty. I'm not worthy of you. Why would I ever ask you out on a date in high school? You're just so incredible. And that's, by the way, a red flag. Run if you hear that from your partner. This self-deprecating behavior, when they constantly tell you that they don't deserve you, they probably don't. They're probably very, very, very insecure, and they're gonna lash out this insecurity in some way. So he starts from there, and then he just becomes very controlling, very toxic, physically, emotionally abusive, and physically abusive, and then she dies. There's no, like, what? I understand they didn't want to make him likable to us, but we wouldn't like him if you showed it to us once, like him being, all apologetic and like bringing her flowers, and this bullshit, like doing something so we would understand why she likes him, because it's not evident. I don't understand. And I'm sure he did do some of that, because why would she date him otherwise? Like, it's not how the toxic cycle works. Ugh. They also decided to make him unfunny for some reason. I don't know. I think they heard the Dahmer thing, right? And they were like, oh, the creators of Dahmer made him not likable, but people who watched the Dahmer story started to empathize with Dahmer, right? Serial killer. So they made him likable is the wrong word, but they constructed the story in a way that the viewer would feel bad for him. And that's true. I didn't feel bad for him when I watched it, because I already heard that, and I was like, just consciously trying to be aware of how the show was trying to manipulate me, and trying not to do that. But I understand how, if you don't know the story that well, and you just watch it like not really knowing much about the story itself and about the TV show, you might kind of start feeling bad for him, because that's what they did. That's what the movie makers wanted you to feel, which is absolutely batshit crazy. So maybe they looked at that and they were like, okay, so we gotta make sure we don't make Brian too likable. So let's not put in any redeeming qualities. He's just a toxic, abusive, controlling, jealous piece of shit. I understand why they went this route, but it just makes movie not make sense. But that's what I mean. Just don't make these reenactments. That's the thing, because if it was a fictional story, you can easily make him likable, or to a certain extent, and then we will start seeing like some red flags. That's how you tell the story, actually, usually, that you begin with someone who is kind of nice and charismatic and charming and all that, and then like bit by bit we'd see who he actually is, the abuser in the relationship. You can do that in a fictional story, but in this fucking reenactment, they didn't know how to handle it, because there's no right way to handle it, so stop making them. So yeah, he's completely he's not charming, he's not charismatic, he's not funny, he's not nothing. He had one joke in the movie, one joke. I don't know if they knew that. They kind of stole it from Fry and Laurie sketch show. I don't know if anyone remembers that one, because it's kind of old. I'm sorry, I'm old. But the joke in the sketch show was a lot better. And this movie is just...
As I said, you and I were given a brief to set out the concept of front-end accessibility with volume targeting.
Tell me something I don't know, Peter.
My geography teacher's middle name was Louis.
And then, so the story goes, right, they start dating, and they live in New York at the time, I think. And Brian's family is in Florida, and one day he's like, I gotta move to Florida. And she's like, what the fuck, dude? What do you mean you gotta go to Florida? Girl, God. And he's like, well, I don't have money, because I'm unambitious and lazy. So I'm gonna drag you to Florida to live with my parents, because I can't afford to rent a place. God, he's a piece of shit. I mean, to be fair, he's 22. I'm sure a lot of people at the age of 22 have to live with their parents, especially in this climate. Like, oh my God, it's so hard, especially in New York. It's hard. I totally get it. Even when I was 22, it was hard. Now it's a lot harder, because inflation is just through the roof. So I get it. It's just, just because of the context. So if you're 22, you're living with parents, it's completely fine. Don't worry about it. But it's just because of the context, it's just, ugh. He doesn't even, at least in the movie, he doesn't even like offer her to move with him. She's basically like, oh no, I'm gonna go with you. So he doesn't even have the guts to like ask her. Anyways, this is speculation. We don't know if that actually happened this way or another way. So they're moving to Florida to live with his parents. Well, no, they do rent. Oh yeah, I just realized that it's a plot hole because he said that they're gonna go to Florida to live with his parents, but then they rent a house. I don't know. I guess his parents help him. I don't know why they couldn't help him in New York or whatever. Anyways, doesn't matter. It's a shitty movie. Who cares? They rent a small house. They live in this house. She works as a waitress, and he does something. I don't know. He kind of doesn't really do anything in this movie. I think he was like a part-time landscape architect. She becomes friends with this girl who's it's a real person. It's Rose Davis. It's a real person who, by the way, hated the movie. And she becomes friends with her, and they go out, they spend time together, and then Brian starts being jealous of her female friend. Like, mind you, as far as we know, Gabby Petito is not bisexual. She's their friends. Not to say that it's okay to be jealous of your male friends or, being jealous of your girlfriend if she's bisexual. Like, it's still not okay. But it's just the level of jealousy is striking. Anyway, he's jealous. He does a lot of like sabotaging things so she would hang out with her. It's disgusting. And one day he's like, hey, you always wanted to travel across the country, right? Let's just do that. Let's just drop everything, get into our van. I don't know where they got the van from, by the way. Who cares? It's a bad movie. And they decide to travel across the country. And then their relationship, because they spend 24 hours per day together, their relationship becomes kind of worse and worse and worse and worse, and they kind of like fight more and more and more. And then this infamous body cam footage comes into the story. They reshot the whole thing. It's so weird how they reshot pictures that Gabby took because she was like a micro influencer on Instagram at that time. They reshot the footage, they reshot her vlog. It's just so weird. If it was a documentary, you could just show the original footage, just have the family there, talk about her, talk about the story, then bring some psychologists who talk about domestic abuse and how to recognize it, how to get out of this relationship, all that stuff. They could have raised awareness so much better than with this shitty, insufferable movie. Why do you take this good idea and then you just fuck it up? So there's this infamous footage. I don't know if you've seen it. You can look it up. Basically, they are at the market and they fight again, and then Brian loses his shit and hits her. This is the first time, at least as far as we know, because Gabby could have just kept it secret, because it's embarrassing. It's not actually embarrassing. You feel embarrassed when that happens to you. So I get how you might not want to share it with people, even the closest people. Coming from some experience. Again, my toxic relationship did not last that long. Thank God. It is embarrassing. It's just, I don't know, it's embarrassing. You just like, because you know deep down that it's not okay and you shouldn't be treated this way, but at the same time you love this person, and if you are afraid that if you tell your friends, they're gonna judge you and they're gonna be like, break up with this guy, what are you doing? But you don't want to break. It's a mess. So I completely understand if it wasn't the first time. It was the first time when it happened publicly. Look at me speculating. Fuck. Sorry. Anyways, this is the first time it happened as far as we know, right? And some people saw that and they called the police and they reported, seeing this couple fighting a man assaulting a woman. They got into his van with his license plate number and they drove away in like a certain direction. The police stopped them on the way, and they continued fighting in the car, of course. And on this body cam footage, you can see how distraught Gabby is. She's like shaking, she's crying, she's not okay. And Brian is just laughing and like, oh no, it was a fine day. She just gets weird. She gets in a mood sometimes, you know what I mean? She has her mood. I'm telling you, if it was a single female officer there, the story would have ended differently. But they're all male, unfortunately. And they decided that Gabby was the primary aggressor. So after that, the police officer decides that she's the main aggressor, and they separate them for 24 hours. He stays at a hotel and she stays in a van. And next morning, another thing they kind of speculated about was she had a conversation with Rose, and well, I guess I'm sure that's true because Rose would have disclosed that information. And Rose tells her, like, just fuck that guy, just come here, come home, come to my place, to Florida. Like, it's dangerous, you should not be there with this guy. And they're showing how she like punched the address into her GPS system, and she decided to go to Florida, and then she stopped, like very abruptly she stopped, and then the next morning she was at Brian's place. Like, we don't know if that happened, that she started going to Florida. It feels like a movie thing, you know, like, oh my god, she was so close to avoiding it, but then she did it, and it just something feels cheap about it. I don't know, maybe it is true, maybe they know somehow, maybe they can see in her GPS system that she did that, I don't know, but something about it just seems a little off to me. So that's the day she picks him up from a hotel. That's the day she died. And at that point, I'm like, oh my god, now they're gonna drown us in speculation, right? Because we don't know what actually happened, how she died. Like, obviously they probably fought, but about what and what, like, we don't know. We know she died from strangulation. That's it. So I was like, oh my god, how are they gonna do that? And then they didn't. And I was like, oh, that's amazing. It's still a shitty movie, by the way, but I was happy that they did not speculate on this very, very sensitive topic, because if her family member has to watch her being strangled to death on the screen, like, just I was like legit happy that they did that. I was like, okay, this movie may not be as bad as I thought it was. So basically, the way they show it, she picks him up, they go to a hike, and they fight, and then the screen goes dark, and he comes back to Florida in a van alone. And then investigation begins, and it's a long story. You can just watch a true crime episode about it from I don't know, anyone you trust. And also at that point they show him doing his drawings, and for some reason, from a lot of like sources, when I was following the murder case in real time, a lot of sources were like using his art to show how he was like crazy psychopath, and I'm completely blown away by that, because I follow on Instagram, I follow a lot of artists. Basically, like 90% of my feed is art. And the 10% is like my friends and family. So I've seen art from a lot of people, very disturbing art, mind you, very, very disturbing art, yet they are not murderers. So can we like stop that, please? He wasn't even that bad of an artist. It does not justify anything, by the way. Like, you can be like, Hitler was a decent artist. Who cares? It doesn't matter in this case. Why all speculating about... That's not even speculation. That's just a bunch of people who know nothing about art deciding that based on someone's art, they can identify whether this person is a psychopath. Like, what? Excuse me, what? I don't know, it was just weird. It was just a weird thing that happened that I did not expect. So the rest of the movie goes into investigation and how Brian came back, and Brian's family immediately hired lawyers. They never talked to press, they never talked to police. They basically hid in their house and didn't talk to anyone. And then her body was discovered, and we learned that she died from strangulation. Then Brian went into hiding. So we thought, that's, by the way, when I heard about that case, the consensus was that he might be hiding in Mexico because of proximity, but he wasn't. He just went into some forest, whatever, and shoot himself in the head. And that's where the movie should have ended. Well, it shouldn't have never been even started, but, you know. But no, they decided, they just couldn't help it, and they had to speculate about the way she was murdered. They couldn't just let it go. They had to speculate. So there's this scene when they talk and she decides to break up with him and he strangles her. And could that have happened? Yeah, but we don't know that. And considering the sensitivity of the topic, why even go there? So the movie itself is just, it's not very well done. The pacing is weird. It's not, they clearly didn't spend a lot of money on it. You don't need to spend a lot of money on a movie to make it good, but obviously I can't look at it with an open mind, because I don't have an open mind about these reenactment films. I think they should not exist. I think they're absolutely disgusting. And I think that we need some legislation to stop them from happening ever again. The truth is, we just don't need them, especially in the case with so much content already existing, because Gabby was trying to be like a vlogger. She was growing rapidly at the time. So there are a lot of vlogs, there are a lot of videos, there are a lot of Instagram content, there are photos, there's body cam footage. You don't really need reenactment. What are you reenacting? It's already, like, a lot of it is already out there. So it's just a cash grab. So unnecessary and just such a missed opportunity, because I think a well done documentary would go a long way to, you know, talk to Gabby's parents, who just seem like such lovely people, and her friend, and also maybe Brian's family. It would be interesting to hear from them, because they never said anything, because they were trying to protect their son, which I understand why a lot of people are like, the fuck are you doing? He murdered someone. But at the end of the day, you don't know what he told them, you know? Like, he could have said that, oh, you know, like, she attacked me and I like pushed her away and she fell on a rock and like bled to death right on her like head. Like, he could have, and even though it sounds like bull of crap, when it's your child, you just so want to believe them that it's really hard. It's really hard to be objective and reasonable. So I don't have this animosity to his family. I feel very bad for them because they lost their son too. You know, he didn't go to jail. He died. And when his mother drove him to, well, he went to the forest by himself, and then she picked up his car. I'm sure she didn't know what he was gonna do. I don't think any mother would be like, you're gonna go to the woods to kill yourself? Good, yeah, I'll pick you up later. I'm pretty sure she didn't know that, and how can you not feel bad for someone who lost their 22-year-old son? That's what I mean. It's just a tragedy all along. Regardless of from what angle you look at it, it's absolutely tragic. And it would be interesting to hear their side, if they agree to participate in it. It will be interesting to hear Gabby's family side, and again, some experts, because it's obviously not the first domestic abuse story, but it blew up a lot, mostly because the victim is a young white woman with some online following, which is not bad. I'm glad that her story blew up. It's just there are other cases like that out there that nobody knows about because the victim does not look the way Gabby does. Let's put it this way. And that's sad because they are actually people who do not look like Gabby. They're actually more vulnerable to this type of abuse. So anyway, it's not against Gabby. I'm glad she got as much attention as she did. I just wish we would give some attention to other cases. But we can also leverage that. You know, we can take advantage of the fact that everybody has heard of this case, and through this case talk about this very, very important topic of domestic abuse. But we didn't. We just made a shitty movie